Good evening and welcome to Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin Matt Costa and science advisor Matt Moniz. You knew it was only a matter of time, by the way, before that happened. We've been carrying this show on WBSM for the last 12 and a half years, and we've been going YouTube only when the Red Sox are on for the past, I don't know, two years maybe. And I think this is the first time that we've ever tried to play the theme song the same time the game was trying to play commercials. So we had to stop there and let the commercials have their way, which, what can you do?
Well, part of it's the automated system, right?
Yeah, well, but everything's tied into one, so
Yeah.
we just go with what we can go with. But we are broadcasting live on YouTube, talking about the paranormal, as we do each and every Saturday night. Want to say hi to everybody who is joining us live. If you're listening to this show after the fact via podcast, or maybe on a YouTube replay or YouTube clips, or however you consume the show, live is the place to be. Saturday nights, 10 to midnight, this is the place that you want to be, because you never know what's going to happen when the show is live. I could screw up, like I just did at the beginning of this show. You don't want to miss the fun. And if at any point in the show you want to call in, 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420 if you need the toll-free line, and you can jump in the chat room on Spooky South Coast YouTube feed. Nightbot is in the chat room tonight, so make sure that you interact with Nightbot. He's got some good. We updated the AI for our friend Nightbot, huh, Matt? We put some new commands in for Nightbot.
We attempted to.
So you can play around with Nightbot. He'll be in there throughout the course of the chat room tonight, and we'll just keep adding to it. We'll keep making it more interesting. He's got some hidden phrases in there for all of our friends over at Belgab that are joining us in the chat room. And I see that we're filling up with folks. Thank you all for joining us. We'll keep an eye on Matt Moniz. We'll keep an eye on the chat room. I'll keep an eye on the chat room. We'll try to get to your questions as well throughout the show. Coming up in just a bit, we're going to be joined by a very special guest for the first part of the program. We're going to be joined by Amy Dumas, who you might know better as Lita from the WWE. She is a WWE Hall of Famer, multi-time women's champion. She'll be joining us to talk about her new venture, which is called UFO Sho, and it's on the ASY network. And I've had the chance to watch the first couple episodes. I got to tell you, it's a lot of fun. It's certainly, it's very much a look into the Americana and the kitsch of some of the UFO related stuff that's out there too. So we'll get into all that with Amy coming up in just a bit, but you can check out the website for that at asytv.com. That's ASYTV.com. If you want to go over there and sign up, it's $2.95 for a month. And they've got a bunch of shows up there. And it's not just, there's a couple of different paranormal programs, but it's not just paranormal stuff. There's food shows and travel shows and all kinds of stuff up there. So it's certainly well worth checking it out for $2.95, giving it a view, see if you like it. And I get a feeling you'll find some programming on there that you like. And that's what I like about the way that media is going these days. You know, as much as we're here on a traditional radio station, not tonight, but in general, but as much as we have, developed this online audience and this online following over the past, 12 and a half years, it's also good to know that there's still that traditional media out there. And we're one of the few that can bridge the gap and be part of both. But I do like the fact that, there's shows that you say, well, that's a great show, but a network would never pick that up because maybe they feel like it's not commercial enough, like they can't market it or they can't sell it to the advertisers. But that doesn't mean that the programming's bad. It just means that the short-sighted advertisers aren't willing to buy time on those programs. So now with all of these new online ventures like the ASY network, like Nick Roth's Haunted Space, his whole video network that he's created, these opportunities give average people, people that don't have the big-time Hollywood connections, but they're still brilliant filmmakers, brilliant producers, directors, hosts. It gives them the chance to still create content that the rest of the world can consume, and they can choose how they want to consume it and if they want to consume it. It's not like it's something that's being forced down your throat, like when you go and you sign up for cable and you got to get those 144 channels in the package that you're only going to watch 44 of them, but you can't pick and choose a la carte what you want. But with these online services, you certainly can. Especially like where some of them even tell you it's whatever, $5.99 a month for our service, or you can buy individual episodes for 99 cents. So they're really customizable.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I like the a la carte idea.
Well, I mean, you're a guy that didn't even have internet at your house until recently. So now that you see the possibilities of what's out there, it's certainly a game changer. Because why go watch, 45 hours of Law and Order reruns on 10 different stations, 10 different networks, when you can have the kind of content that you're looking for? And I think that that's what is appealing to a lot of the audience, is that if you want to just get wrapped up in a particular genre, you can do that. If you're a gun guy, Moniz, if you want, you can watch the NRA TV channel all day.
I could.
As opposed to just, waiting and see. I'm just saying it's something that you're into. It's something that you're an enthusiast.
Well, it's not just that. It's my job now.
But you would have to wait and be like, oh, wow, there's an episode of Modern Marvels about firearms on today. Like, I want to make sure I catch that. Like, now you don't have to. Now you can just, if you have a couple of hours to kill, you can spend that couple of hours just watching programming for what you're interested in. So it's certainly making things different. It's making things difficult for the cable companies, because ultimately they're going to have to say, well, we're going to have to charge you more for internet if you're not going to be watching our TV, because they're making the money off all the packages that all the carrier packages that they're selling to the networks. So in the long run, like, everybody's like, oh, I'm cutting the cord. I'm going to save so much money because I'm cutting the cord. Well, you still need that internet coming to your house.
Correct.
And that internet's only going to get more expensive, but I digress. The point is that we can actually watch and enjoy content made just for us, which is what we're all about here with Spooky South Coast. This is content made just for paranormal enthusiasts. There's two people that listen to the show or watch the show. People that are into the topic of the paranormal, and people that are into snacks, because we talk a lot about both.
Yeah.
So I think the paranormal audience kind of outweighs the snack audience a little bit, but we're going to talk about snacks with Amy Dumas later on.
I got a question. Do you think they'll actually make a dedicated paranormal channel?
Well, let me give you some insight into that.
Okay. I know you deal with networks and things like that in your other jobs here.
So the network that I have worked with is Destination America, which is owned by Discovery Networks.
Right.
Discovery Networks is in the middle of a merger with Scripps, which owns the Travel Channel. So essentially, when all is said and done, the speculation, nothing's been official, and I'm not speaking in any kind of in-the-know capacity. This is just speculation that I've talked to about some of my other, TV friends with, is that, and I mean people that work in TV, not when I talk to the TV and pretend those are my friends, which I also do that as well. But my best friend growing up was Bear. I was like, if only I could just get BJ out of the picture.
I was going to say, poor BJ.
Yeah, like Bear's my best friend. Chewbacca is courtside at the Celtics game. That mask is movie quality.
Okay.
I have the Celtics game on behind me, so
wow.
that's a real Chewbacca.
That is.
So that was distracting. Yeah. Anyway, back to the show. So in talking with some of my friends that work in television, when the merger happens, there's really no reason for them to have the Discovery Channel, the Destination America channel and the Travel Channel, if they're both essentially the same type of programming. So there's some thought that a lot of the travel programming on Destination America would go over to the Travel Channel because it has a wider base, it reaches far more homes. And so then the question would be, does Destination America go away? Where it already has so much paranormal programming, and they've only been increasing that.
Yeah. Not
with fresh content, but with rebroadcasts of other stuff or just rerunning the same shows that they produced in the past. It seems to be trending that might become, I'm not saying all paranormal network, but a mostly paranormal network. So we could see, it pretty much is now, but we could see more money pumped into those type, and then some of the shows that are on other networks, so if Finding Bigfoot's going to come back and have more, that might end up on that network because they can stream everything into one channel.
Yep.
So the problem is then they have to make that channel available in more homes to make up for where it would be seen otherwise, because I think Animal Planet and Travel Channel are in far more households than Destination America. So that's a little bit of the inside info. And like I said, that's not anything official from any networks. That's just my own speculation and what I've talked about with my friends. It just seems to make sense. But also, with the rise of streaming services, there's a whole new home for content. Some of the most popular stuff that streams on Netflix and Hulu are the paranormal documentaries. That's why you keep seeing more and more of them pop up. Even if it's just that they're buying up the rights to other shows to put on there, they're putting more of that content in there. So eventually, I wouldn't be surprised if they start putting money into actual original programming of a paranormal nature, because most of it's pretty cheap to produce. You know, I don't know if you saw the show, The Get Down.
No.
But so that was like a drama that was like the history of hip hop, but told through a drama. But Baz Luhrmann was the creator of it. Well, it was very visual and very, it was very artistic, but it also was very expensive. So they canceled it because they weren't getting the viewership to justify the millions of dollars they were spending to make it. The same with that show Sense8 from the Wachowskis. Same thing. It's so expensive to produce and it's not getting enough eyeballs. But when you look at a show like Ghost Hunters, it's not that expensive to produce.
Yeah.
You know, it's really like you just get the people to the location, pay for the location, have a crew to film what they do on the location, and pay some people to edit it afterwards. It's not a very time-consuming or costly process for the production company.
It's not labor-intensive, so to speak. Yeah.
The hardest part of it is, spending the time to actually find the places to go and to keep it fresh and all of that. But in terms of production value, they certainly did a fine job with that. So it wasn't like the show suffered. It was just cheaper overall. It didn't cost as much to put everything into it. I mean, maybe with your Ghost Adventures and you got to pay Zach Bagan's salary or the money that he's getting as an executive producer and all that, then the prices start to go up a little bit. But when you're producing some of these lower level shows, you could certainly have lots more of them. So that's what I like about these online offerings, is that you can get real niche and they don't worry so much about if you're getting too crazy or if you're getting too out there. You can have your own voice. And we can talk about this with Amy when she joins us, but I have a feeling that there's probably not a whole lot of, from the ASY network, probably not a lot of oversight where they say, nope, can't do that. Nope, that's too weird. Like, I think they seem like, judging by some of the programming they have, they're probably pretty open to things. And I can tell you that working with Destination America, as great as they've been to work with, there's been episode ideas that we've pitched for shows where they've said, oh, no, we don't want to talk about that. I can just give one example because it's a show that's no longer in production. But when we worked on Ghost Stalkers,
yep,
they went to the Springfield Hospital in Maryland, and they wanted to investigate that place because it had underground tunnels. So it became all about, let's investigate this old abandoned hospital that has underground tunnels. And, that show was all about portals, which it wasn't supposed to be, but that's what the network wanted. And so the feeling was that this was a great place to go and look for ghosts. But as I'm doing the research, I'm finding out there's been UFO sightings, abduction cases reported. There's, all kinds of Native American lore from the area. Oh, and by the way, they've also had a pretty big Bigfoot flap too. So basically they have a smaller version of, what we have here with the Bridgewater Triangle.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, we should really tie all this in together. I mean, we've got John Tenney there, the king of weird. Let's tie all this together because this is all part of the bigger picture of what's going on. And the network was said, no, let's just stick to the ghost stuff. And that Bigfoot stuff isn't really all that popular. This is 2015, so it's before, the big Bigfoot explosion of programming. And so we could have been at the cutting edge of that. And instead, we're getting told that, audiences just aren't willing to buy that. Audiences don't want to have to think about aliens and Bigfoot and ghosts all at once. It's like, nope, you're wrong. The more that you can tie all the weird stuff together, the better off that we are.
Well, it is all quote unquote tied together. I mean, it's all unexplained.
It is. And even if you don't, if you're somebody like, we had Cliff Barrickman on who said he doesn't buy into ghosts and he doesn't buy into a lot of that other stuff, but he thinks Bigfoot's a real flesh and blood creature. Even if you think that and that's your mindset, it's not 1970 anymore, where the Bigfoot researchers don't cross paths with the ghost researchers or the UFO researchers, and where everybody kind of gives each other the stink eye when they talk about what it is that they do. It's not like that anymore. It's a brotherhood of weird.
Yeah.
And so when you have that, and it can also be a sisterhood of strange. It's open to everybody. But when you have that and you have those connections, those people are crossing over into the same circles now. It may not, from a factual or scientific standpoint, we can say from their perspective, it may not be tied together, but the people who are doing that work are tied together with the people that are doing the other work.
Yeah.
So you can't say, I don't know who that person is, or you respect each other's research, far unlike what you probably went through at the beginning of your career.
Oh, yeah. But what I've noticed, especially if you're talking about going to these various, like Comic-Con type of, UFO cons or Bigfoot con, there are other, we'll call it cross-pollination of paranormal people there. You'll find a Lauren Coleman at a alien abduction conference, and you'll find somebody like Kathy Martin at a ghost con type of thing. They'll all cross.
And I think that's certainly for the benefit of the audience as well as it is for the individuals involved, to have them say, hey, listen, if you're willing to accept this, just open your mind up to this idea. It doesn't matter if you are convinced at all, but if you're just willing to listen and willing to at least travel down this path with us for a little while, then who knows what else you might discover along the way.
Well, if you're into just say, ghosts, you'll find that there are encounters of people doing ghost work where they've come across either UFO or alien abduction things in the process of doing research or actually investigating a case, and cases of Bigfoot that get involved in. And same thing with Bigfoot people. I know people that have gone Bigfoot hunting and wound up catching EVPs on their recorders. And you know what I'm saying? Just because you go out looking for one thing doesn't mean you're not going to find something else.
And hopefully we can get into that a little bit with Amy Dumas coming up, because even in the first episode of UFO Show, she's going down into the catacombs of the Roswell UFO Museum with Beth, who was still laughing at that joke from a couple weeks ago. But she goes down in there with Beth, and Beth is telling her about some of the ghostly experiences that people have had in that basement. Yeah. Telling her about what psychics have picked up and what paranormal researchers have picked up. And so here's a show that's about UFOs that some of the ghost stuff is sneaking into. And I want to ask Amy, how much she's willing to go down those roads herself as she goes along, because she's going to end up in a place like, and I'm going to push for it, the Bridgewater Triangle, where everything is kind of intermingling with each other.
Yeah. When I was in Roswell, I did a little ghost hunt there with Jesse Marcel Jr.'s wife and daughter, and he even poked around a little bit with us. And, just because you're into one thing doesn't mean you can't go out and experience some of the other stuff.
Right. And you really should try and go out and experience it, just because maybe there's something you can learn from that you can take into your own research.
Correct.
I would never have thought of going out into the woods all the time and knocking on trees looking for Bigfoot until you took me out into the woods, on Moni's Island when we were just kind of filming a little something, and you're banging on the trees and all that, and I was like, well, that seems like a really easy thing to do every time I go on a ghost investigation. Every time I'm looking for ghosts, why don't I try knocking and see if they'll knock too?
Right.
And I've had that happen.
The old school. Yeah.
Right. It's very much spiritualism, Fox Sisters kind of stuff. But when I started doing that, I realized that pretty much every time I went somewhere, it would happen.
Yeah.
Now, the downside of that was when we went to, we were investigating the Oliver House in Middleborough, and I'm in the basement, and somebody's on the third floor, and I'm doing the old shave and a haircut.
So he's not.
And so I'm freaking out because I'm doing shave and a haircut, and I'm hearing somebody else, I'm hearing a ghost do 2 bits.
Yeah.
And then a person up on the third floor is freaking out because he's hearing a ghost do shave and a haircut, and he's doing 2 bits. So it took us a little while to realize that we were both along the same pipe that was running from the basement to the 3rd floor. But see, we didn't immediately assume it was a ghost, but it got exciting for a few minutes till we realized what was going on. So you never know, what you can pick up from one and what you can bring into another. And so we'll talk about that with Amy, because I think that, especially if you have the chance to get into some of the places she has the chance to get into, being who she is, she's a pretty recognizable celebrity. And we saw it happen with Jack Osborne and his show. We've seen it happen as the stars of paranormal television shows have become more recognizable.
You also had Rob Lowe.
And Meatloaf and all kinds of people have, done paranormal shows, and they've had access that some of the rest of us wouldn't be able to get. The dirty secret of that is, it's not like they're just letting them in because it's Meatloaf. They're letting them in because the production company gave them money.
Yeah.
So, but when you have a show with Meatloaf, you have a little bit more money to give than if you have a show with, Joe Schmo Paranormal Investigator, which that might be a little bit better too, because then you're forced to find the places that aren't the same places everybody else goes. That's why I want to talk to Amy about future episodes of UFO Show, because I want to know where there's got to be some off the beaten path places, some places that she might go to that you will say, Moniz, as somebody who's been looking into this for so long, you might say, whoa, I'm surprised that you checked out that case. There were some cases that we covered in the early days too. Like if you look at, Kecksburg.
Yep.
Nobody really talks about that.
That was one of my favorite cases.
But we ended up, looking into that and doing a whole episode on that, and it becomes, a fascination. The Bentwaters case, for a long time, nobody was paying attention to it. It's had a comeback, I think, in recent years, but for a long time, that case was something that was dormant in terms of the research. So the fact that we have more and more of these things happening is for the betterment of everybody. And I'm going to bring on our guest right now. She is joining. This is a Hall of Fame guest, Moniz.
Okay.
I know that you're not a wrestling fan, but trust me when I tell you. Hall of Fame guest.
Old school wrestling.
4-time women's champion. One of the greatest of all time. You know her as Lita in the WWE, Miss Congeniality in ECW if you go that far back. But now she's just Amy Dumas, and she's joining us now on Spooky South Coast. Are you with us, Amy?
I'm here. You just cut straight to the deep tracks with Miss Congeniality, pulling that one out.
Listen, I've been a fan since those days, and I remember watching and saying, there's somebody that would be pretty good in the then WWF, but it turns out, hey, I was right. You've had a pretty successful career making it into the Hall of Fame.
I did okay.
And so now that you have, free time on your hands, now that you're retired and you're able to follow your passions, it looks like your passions have been UFO research all this time.
Yeah, I mean, that's been something that's interested me for a while. And then I met Brandon from ASY TV, and I was a guest on one of his shows. And we just got to chatting. He's like, you should do your own show on our network. It's a real DIY network, no commercials, and it's all just people, pursuing their passions and showing their interests in and whatever it is they're interested in. And I said, okay, well, I'll think about it. I'll think about because I do have a lot of different interests of what would be fun to do. And then one night we were just chatting and got into UFO talk. And then, we were 30 minutes into us just riffing on UFO stuff. He's like, this is our show, right? This is what you're going to do a show about. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so yeah, there we have it for now.
Well, what I like about it is, and there's just the 2 episodes out so far, right? We've seen the Roswell episode and the Extraterrestrial Highway. Those are the only ones that have been released so far. Right? I think we lost her. That was definitely a dropped call. That was not I don't think I made her that angry. Not on the first question yet.
No.
Hopefully she'll call right back. But
my bet is the 4th.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, it's the fact that you can just sit there and talk about what you want to create a show about. And you have that kind of freedom. So we'll see if she joins us again here in a moment. I didn't do it, I swear. Okay, here we go. She's coming back on with us. There is still with us, Amy?
I am back.
Listen, I know that you're new to a media career in terms of paranormal strange research, but get used to this kind of stuff. It's going to happen.
We just experienced some sort of interference.
If you're talking UFOs, they're listening on your phone now. It's just how it goes.
I know. I'll say that to people. Like, I'll send them articles or stuff. I'm like, sorry, I just put your name on a list by sending you that link.
Absolutely. And but don't worry. Like, eventually, there's so many names on the list. It's going to take them forever to get to you. So you're safe.
I'm deep onto the list. I'm going to get some warning signs before anything happens. Yeah. So we have the three episodes. We did one more. The third episode will take place in Sedona and Santa Fe, and then after that, we'll jump back out on the road and film our next round, our road trip UFO stops. And
what I like about the show is that it's not just about the cases, and it's not just rehashing the stories of the UFOs. It's about what that means to that particular place. It's how that UFO story has given an identity to a place, and it's very much about the Americana and the kitsch of it all as it is about the actual UFO experiences.
Yeah, I loved it taking that approach on it because, first of all, it's me. I love just setting out on the open road and not real. And I'll maybe have a dart in the map as a destination, but I may not make it all the way there. But there's for sure a lot of tributaries along the way that I'm just going to stop and whatever. When I see something shiny, I'm going to stop. And,
oh, absolutely.
So I like doing that. And yeah, like you said, these towns that have. Their identities have been formed around either an event or just a phenomena in general, and then the people that you meet along the way. And I love just using a common interest as a social network, right? So I met all these people, and to say how does this culture influence your daily life? And I'm not out to set to prove anything to anyone, and there's plenty of shows and articles and people that are way more connected than I am that can do all that, and I can nerd out and read all that on my own time. But it was really just, in knowing the wide reach that I do have from my wrestling career, that people are just going to be interested to check the show out that may have never spent 5 minutes thinking about what else could be out there, or UFOs or other species and anything like that. And it's just kind of an intro. And if anything I maybe say or somebody I interview says sparks your interest, it's so easy to just look up on your own time. And that was my approach to it. And in general, is like I'll lob something up for people of either my values or my beliefs or whatever it is. But that's on you for you to take your own path and spend your time researching or discovering what you want to.
And as you know from the wrestling world, it's one of your jobs as a performer is to develop your character and your persona and to create this larger than life personality. And you're actually going out there and meeting people who are just already larger than life personalities. There's nothing being put on with these people. They just are who they are, and they are characters. Yes,
I love syncing up with the local characters of that town, and I love the concept that these people have formed their own identity and they're kind of legendary in their community, or they're, but you mean the woman that owns the little alien on the extraterrestrial highway? It's like people know her all over the world. She's a celebrity, and she lives in Rachel, Nevada, in the middle of nowhere, and owns this tiny little motel, but people know her and talk about her, and she's warmed their experience or their vacation in some way just having met her, and I love that aspect of these local fixtures or celebrities in their own right.
And you can catch these episodes of UFO Show on ASYTV.com, ASYTV.com. It's only $2.95 a month to get all the great programming that they have there. And what I like too about it is it seems like I'm just guessing from knowing about your band that you had, the Luchagors, and everything that I know about you from what I've read online. It seems like you probably have a hand in picking a lot of that music that's being used on the show as well.
Yeah, so this has been fun since it is all self-done, totally DIY. We make up where we want to go and just go there and piece things together and call in favors for things like that. And so I was like, some of my friends have had to have written songs about UFOs or space or something like that before. And so I looked, and my friend Kepi, who was in the Groovy Ghoulies, he did the theme song years ago, 50,000 spaceships watching over me. And I said, hey, can this be our theme song to our show? And he always, of course. And then my friend, we toured, Lucha Gore's tour with Zombina and the Skeletones, and they have a couple great songs about space and UFOs. And so they're featured in there. And you know, just as I'm contacting friends and reaching out and saying, hey, like, you know, can we use your music? And it's just giving it that feel that I feel like you get a sense of me. Like you kind of gave my resume, and at the end, and you're like, and now she's just Amy Dumas, you know? And it's like when you watch that show, it's like, there's Amy Dumas. Like, this is the music she listens to. This is how she just chats with people she meets on the street, and kind of meanders and tells these stories in a tangenting fashion, which I consider myself to be quite a tangent specialist.
Well, one tangent that you go down is one that we also frequently go down on this show as well. And don't take this the wrong way, but there's a pretty strong focus on snacks on UFO Show.
I love my snacks.
So do we.
Somebody brought that up. They were watching the show. They're like, I love how you just stop and eat. And I was like, they're like, the shows don't do that. I was like, right, but clearly, like, we're going all day long, and one has to stop and eat. So let's pop in and just, you know, it is. It's like a video diary / travel journal of the day, you know, and you can watch it. It like gets dark, and yeah, we have to stop. So yeah, there's like, we stop at one of my favorite donut shops in Vegas, and stop at a Mexican restaurant in the first episode, and there's food in the third episode too, you know, because it's just it's part of, yes, UFOs, it's going to be rooted in that culture, but it's also just, yeah, like you said too, the music, the punk rock music, or, you know, the music that I play and the food that I eat and stuff. It's just kind of, and my dog is just she's cameos all over there. Just, they pan out on this last episode and you just see her. She's right there at my ankle walking to the car with me because she is, you know, and so the Kens makes her presence known as well.
Well, you call them cameos, but you know that in season 2, she's going to demand more screen time, and you know there'll be riders in her contract and all that kind of stuff.
She really is. She's kind of stingy with her TV time, because sometimes she's just like, no, I'm off the clock right now. So she calls the shots and she knows it. But yeah, I always get a kick out of seeing, because I'll forget that she's there and I'm just watching the show and I'm like, oh, there's the Kens.
Well, but, you know, if you see any shows like, you know, if you watch Ancient Aliens or some of these other UFO-related television shows that are on network TV, or even things that are online, you know, they focus a lot on the cases, but people are watching those and saying, well, I'm interested in learning more about that, but I would never actually think to go to these places. But your show is giving them a bird's eye view of it, a chance to see what it's all about. And this is what happens when you descend upon a Roswell or descend upon Sedona. And this is what you're going to go and experience when you go there. And it's about more than just the case. It's about the culture, the people, and the impact that case has had.
Well, here's the thing is, like, I'll sit down and listen to somebody. I'll watch a crappy YouTube video of somebody at a conference where you can barely hear the audio on a specific case because I am interested but I understand that can be alienating to people, or that it's, you know, it takes somebody, it's preaching to the choir, right? You know, people that are already interested in that, or who's going to sit down and watch that, or watch. Sometimes people can get pretty intense on the topics of UFOs and what their either personal experiences or their past military experience, and all of that. You can get pretty intense, and I get how that it can be too much for people. So that was not the approach I wanted to take at all. And I just wanted to have a fun, lighthearted thing, but I like to just lob out a couple food for thought items, you know, and then if it resonates with you, like I said, that information is really easily available to kind of absorb it as you're ready for it.
And you give the information right on the screen of where people can go to find out more, and you know, they can just take that link and fall down the rabbit hole themselves.
Right. Or you can just eat some donuts and listen to some music and watch me tell a couple corny jokes, and that's that. You're like, that's okay too.
Well, you've spent a lot of time on the road. I assume you've spent more than your fair share just driving alone at night, or being up in an airplane at night trying to get from one destination to another. Have you had UFO experiences yourself?
Yes, and that is what got me deeper into the culture and wanting to learn and explore more. We'll hear about it more on the third episode, but I was in Sedona, which is known as one of the hotspot for sightings and potentially for its portals and vortexes. There's a lot of vortexes in the area, and so I went with Melinda Leslie, who's been a known ufologist for a long time, and she does, which I loved her the way she presented information is, well, all we can do is talk about things that we can identify, that we're going to look up at the sky and see, and then everything else that you see that's unidentified, and so she runs through the whole gamut of information, how to identify what's a star, what's a planet, a satellite, a military plane, a commercial airplane, a meteorite, all of these things, how you identify them, satellites. And then, okay, so anything else we see besides those things, you can't substantiate with anybody. So I'm not telling you there's a green man driving it, but I'm telling you that that's an identified object that you're seeing moving, And so we had Gen 3 military night vision goggles on, and as the sun was setting, we just started to see multiple things up there in the sky that we couldn't identify. And then I've gone on that tour 4 times now, and I've seen something every time.
Wow. Well, and as I said, you've also been on the road quite a bit. You've stayed in a lot of hotels, and I have to ask you this: have you had any other paranormal type experiences? Any ghost experiences? Any Bigfoot sightings? Anything else that you would categorize as having been something paranormal?
Yeah, I've got one good one. So my home in Atlanta was built in 1924, and the owner or the builder, that was his empty nest home. And in my house, or my street, it's like a little historic district street where the cul-de-sac is a little 12-unit apartment complex, but it was one house. Back in the late 1800s, early turn of the century. And so now it's, like a little cute apartment complex, and then the houses are all little bungalow styles, up the road that was just one singular driveway. My house is the empty nester home, and it butts up to an old historic cemetery. And, I go walk my dog in there, and it's like my park, right? And so when I first moved in, I had my stations on my satellite radio programs, and I had the punk station, and I had this 40s music like Lawrence Welk, and just kind of throwback, just chill, So it was like, this is my relaxing music. This is my get stuff done music, And so I would put it on, and every time I would do it, it would change to the 40s station, and I was like, I just thought it was maybe faulty wiring, which potentially, it was. And then the guy next door who owns it's his grandfather that built the entire street and lived on there. And he said, my grandfather's buried in the cemetery back here. That this was the house that when we would, I've spent a lot of time in that house. And so I asked his name and everything. And I read about it. I go, what do you do? Like, do you think it's and hiding my keys, things like, like the typical things. But I was also like, but I'm new. I just moved in. I don't have my places established. Maybe I put them somewhere else. And so I did the thing. It's, I go, okay, hey, John, I'm Amy. I bought your house, and I love it, and I'm going to take great care of it. And you are welcome to spend more time in your home, as I know you did. And, and I just I said, and if just we can stay here, and I will respect your home and your space, but if you could please respect me, and can you not change the music, and can you not hide my keys, and can you just kind of let me let me take the reins here. And I went to his gravestone, and I found it, and I put offering, I left flowers there, and I repeated it there, and it has never happened since.
Wow. Because I was thinking, in the first episode, when you're in the basement of the Roswell UFO Museum with our friend Wendy, you're down there, and she's telling you some of the things that people have experienced with what psychics have picked up, and people have picked up a little girl down there. And so it seems like with UFO Show, you're not worried about going down some of those pathways and letting some of that stuff kind of leak into the stories that you're telling.
For sure. It's, and especially when you look into galaxies and portals and interdimension travel, and things like that, where it does kind of lead the paranormal activity into UFO culture. And when it naturally comes up like that, especially just speaking with somebody, I would never steer away and say, this isn't what we're talking about, because I love things not having a defined nature. Our theme will be UFOs, and some people are going to be funnier, and some people are going to be more intense, and some people are going to go off in another direction. And it's all what speaks to you. I just love, making friends and putting faces to these names that you've heard, and kind of just making that personal connection with everybody's journey.
And that's what it's all about, really, because we were saying before you joined us that a lot of the research, a lot of the pathways that you go down are going to intersect and cross each other, and you can't be willing to pay attention to one and completely close down another, because they're going to need to intersect and they're going to need to influence each other.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's really what I love about researching this topic, is you're forced to get comfortable with the unknown, and to also to get comfortable with constantly changing and evolving your opinions, and just being open to not having the answers. And I really love that, because I feel like that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. And even somebody like me, I'm very independent. I like to be in control and kind of have a say-so. And then this whole area, you're not in control. This is something greater or bigger or unknown, or you don't have enough pieces of the puzzle, and you just have to kind of go with your experience, or go with what's happening. And I like that aspect of something that's greater than you, and just letting it happen.
I know when I was younger, a lot of my conversations about paranormal interests came up when, I'd be driving down the road with my friends in high school, like looking out the window on a dark night as we're driving down an abandoned road, and they would say, "Hey, what are you looking for?" And then I would say, "Oh, I'm just watching the sky," and that would inevitably lead to talking about UFOs and ghosts and all that. In all of your travels in your wrestling career, were there other people that you were working with that had a similar interest that you could talk about these things with?
Yeah, actually, just recently, and it is, some people, it really scares them. I was with a friend, and we traveled off into a dark road, and we took a different route. So I was like, oh, wow, I didn't think it was going to be this dark. Can we pull over? Can we just lay on the hood and look up? She's like, no way. It is so dark, and I don't want to, and I was like, yeah, but like, you get to see so much more when it's dark. And she had such a strong aversion to doing that, and she actually happened to be, as a person, quite a control freak. And I think that's the thing of like, yeah, you might see something that you can't explain, and that might feel uncomfortable. And so, yeah, I was sitting in WWE, a catering table, and the Miz, who one of you is familiar with, the other one.
Oh, I definitely am, yes.
But so he sat down, and I think I had a pin on my jacket that was a UFO pin, and he was like, "What is that? UFOs? You like UFO? You think they're real? You think there's green men flying around? What do you think about that? Why are you doing that? Why do you have that pin on your jacket?" He just like answers for you as you have a conversation with the Miz. He's just going to tell you what you're thinking. And then so I was like, "Would you like to know why I have this pin now that you've just told me why I have it?" And so I said, well, I went to on this tour in Sedona, and this is what I saw, and I don't know, it's just interested me. And he's like, oh, come on. And then he's just really naysaying me. And then Callisto sits down, and he says, and I said, oh, well, come on. I was like, I said, let's let him weigh in. And I knew he was from Mexico City. And I was like, watch this. Like, I already knew, and I go, hey, Manny, what, you ever seen a UFO or anything like that in the sky? And he's like, oh, yeah, like on the baseball field, like practice, like we were all like, yeah, we've seen, and I was like, yeah, Mexico City, a hot spot, man. He's like, oh, yeah, we'd see stuff all the time. And then the next person sat down there, a photographer, there. And then I was like, what about you, Johnny Photo? You ever seen anything? And he's like, oh, yeah, driving in between L.A. and down one night, I saw something that I didn't know what it was, And so all of a sudden, Miz became the minority. sitting at the table. He went from calling me the outcast or the freak to now all of a sudden Miz is outnumbered, and that was just who happened to sit down. Not as just polling everybody. So I do think it's more common, but because it is a fringe subject, people can be apprehensive to talk about things that they've seen or that they believe that aren't common.
I've found that the most people that are really skeptics are either overly religious or overly atheistic. And they have a hard time trying to wrap their mind around this being, out of their comfort zone, out of their little box.
Well, right, or have trouble with gray area, or maybe grays specifically, but gray area concepts and thoughts, and they need to touch something, or need to have an absolute answer one way or the other.
Well, I can tell you, in our area, we're in New England, in an area that's called the Bridgewater Triangle, which has more than its fair share of not only UFO sightings and abduction cases, but ghost stories, Bigfoot sightings, Thunderbird sightings, all kinds of high strangeness, and there's weirdness of every kind up here. And a couple of years ago, Chris Jericho came up here, and he and I filmed a sizzle reel together for a possible paranormal show. So when you're out in your travels, if you're coming around the Northeast, let us know, because the Bridgewater Triangle would make a great episode of UFO Show, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we would love to come there. So yeah, maybe coming up, because I will do it in spring or summer in your areas. I have a bit of an aversion to the cold. So
understandable.
But yeah, for sure. And I love not trying to, the cities you could do just on the triangle. We could do 3 episodes just on that. We like to do three at a time. And so we were talking about Mexico City as well, and I was like, we could do all 3 episodes just right there with all of the stuff that has happened.
And that's the thing is, I worked on a show called Haunted Towns where we said, we're not going to go to the big cities and the places that everybody knows about. We're going to go to the smaller places where it has a big impact on it, and where it matters, where it becomes part of the culture. So instead of just being one small little thing of a big city's history, it's one big thing in a small town's history.
Yeah, I love that. When there's so much information out there already, it's like, why go to Salem? Like, there's so much information out there already. We already know that. We can go to ones that we don't know so much, because isn't that like part of why it's fun to watch or listen to something is, you don't need the same information that you already know force-fed to you in a different slick package. It's like, let's, go think a little bit outside. And
the best part about UFO Show is Amy will tell you where all the best snacks are when you go. And the good ones, the healthy ones too. I'll set you up to have your own on-the-ground experience there, not just with the UFO stuff, but I'll tell you where the restaurants and tourist attractions too, and to have fun while you're there. Absolutely. Well, everybody can check it out on ASY TV, ASYTV.com. It's UFO Show with Amy Dumas. And Amy, we thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we can get out there and watch the skies together sometime. Absolutely. I would love to. We will stay in touch and make a plan to do that. All right. Take care. Have a great night. Thank you for joining us. Thanks so much. Bye, guys. Bye. And, I just want to brag a little bit here, because I know that you're not a wrestling guy, Moniz. And, you know some of the older wrestlers, but you haven't really been keeping it up. But by my count, 3rd WWE Hall of Famer we've had on this show. Yeah, actually. Because we've had the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase on. We've had Mick Foley on. Yep. And now Lita, Amy Dumas. But yeah. So there you go. Where else can you get Hall of Fame wrestlers talking about the paranormal? Now, think about this. Since we're already pretty good at, talking to people that are really good mediums and stuff like that, and we're good at EVPs, maybe we could get Andre. Well, I don't know if I'd even be able to understand it if we did. Well, just like any other EVP. I would just hear like a bunch of grumbly whispering, like, boss. As soon as he says boss, I'd be like, that's Andre. But absolutely, and as I mentioned to Amy on the phone, they're out on the road. Yep. They're traveling around the country all the time, traveling around the world, and it's not all glamorous. People think that they travel, by plane everywhere they go, but it's in clusters when they do a show. So you're going to fly into Boston for Monday Night Raw, but then Providence is going to be the next night for SmackDown, or there's going to be a show over the weekend in another place. And so you fly into an area from what I understand. And then you drive from location to location
Right.
in that area, in that territory that you're in. So you are spending a lot of time just, the show gets over at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. You grab all your stuff. Maybe you go and, crash for a couple of hours, but then you got to hit the road because you've got to be somewhere else by a certain time to do radio interviews before the event and TV interviews and all that kind of stuff. So it is a life spent.
Don't forget rehearsal.
They don't have to rehearse. It's a fight.
Yeah.
You don't rehearse a fight. Actually, it's amazing. I don't want to get into it all on the show, but it's amazing the way that they actually do it. Like, especially like the veterans, there's no rehearsing at all. They just get in there and they call it on the fly, and they just know, because there's a psychology to it. So once you know the psychology to it, there's just a natural progression. But anyway,
Yeah,
I don't want to turn this into a wrestling nerd show, because I can and I will. So, but you are spending a lot of time on the road, a lot of time either by yourself or with a couple of other people, where you never know what's going to happen when you're out there on the road. And we experience it, when we go to events. We will maybe drive 4 hours to go do an event somewhere, and we'll come home. We'll drive right home afterwards. And what are we doing? Yeah, we're watching the road, but we're also watching the skies. And my one real, absolutely 100% UFO experience was coming home from a ghost hunt. And it wasn't my 4-hour ride. It was my 20-minute ride. It was right over here in New Bedford on 195. Seeing something that I could not explain, that was
Coming
not
back
a
from
plane.
Lizzie's, right?
Yep, not a plane. It moved way too fast. It was a very bright light in the sky that zagged, and then zigged again and disappeared. And it was moving way faster than anything man-made. It was not it was, when I say it zigged,
No, I know
I'm
what you
talking
mean.
it was instantaneous. And even being skeptical about it, my first thought was, well, what's flying from the airport at this time of night at 3 o'clock in the morning? And then I was like, what are you thinking, stupid?
Call Moniz.
No, not even that. I was like, what are you thinking? What's from the airport? Nothing from the airport flies like that.
Yeah.
But, I'm just naturally thinking, well, it has to be something explainable. And then, of course, my next experience being on the cruise ship in the Bridgewater Triangle, Bermuda Triangle.
Cruise ship in the Bridgewater Triangle?
It's possible.
Yeah.
The Hockomock's pretty deep in some spots. But there's, just seeing the lights that we saw in the sky that were moving in a way that did not look like anything else. So, and when you're with people that are experienced UFO watchers and they look up and they say, no, yeah, I don't know what that is, then, you got to think that you might have had somewhat of an experience. But I like the fact, some people get upset. They say, Amy Dumas, she's a wrestler. She's a WWE legend, 4-time women's champion. She's had a spotlight. Why does she need to get into this field? But I love it when somebody has a passion for something like that, and they can take their notoriety and add a little bit to the field of that passion. Like, just as an example, Ghostbusters, one of my favorite movies. There's a wrestler named Zack Ryder who is a huge Ghostbusters fan and helps get a documentary made about Ghostbusters and about Ghostbusters fans. I like that.
Okay.
I like the fact that you can use your influence to kind of help with some other things.
Well, I'm a little older, but I liken that to Henry Winkler and what he did with all of his backing of various paranormal shows.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize he did that.
He was one of the producers on Sightings.
Yep.
But that's the thing, is if you have a passion for it, and you can it lends a little bit of credibility to it, as much as it does, financial backing.
Mm.
But you say, would a show like that get made without Henry Winkler's involvement? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe it takes that one person stepping in and saying, no, I'm pushing this through to have it happen, which we've seen happen with, a lot of productions in when it comes to a paranormal nature. But I think that this is only a good thing. It's a fun show to watch. It is, it's not, if you like watching shows where, like American Pickers or, even some of the early seasons of Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, where you're just going to a place and you're meeting characters.
Okay.
You're meeting people that you look at them and say, wow, that's like, I would want to go there now and meet that guy. That's what is very much the spirit of that show. And there's room for that. Not everything has to be, let's talk to the eyewitnesses who saw this in 1967 and get their story, and then try to tear holes in their story, and then talk to other people that tell them what they actually saw, even though they weren't there.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's okay to get away from that and just let the legend be the legend. Just let the story be the story. And we can get into all that with you. If you want to join in, 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420. You can tweet us at SpookySC. You can join us in the chat room on SpookySouthCoast.com and on our YouTube channel. I want to say hi to everybody that's in the YouTube channel. I did not get to the question that somebody tweeted us earlier because it just didn't seem appropriate. So we got a tweet earlier from a wrestling fan that wanted to know how Amy felt when there was an angle with a guy named Gene Snitsky and her feet. This was a wrestling angle.
Oh, okay.
I almost tried to work it in only because Gene Snitsky, paranormal investigator.
Yeah.
When you think about some of the other wrestlers that are involved in paranormal stuff, like I mentioned, Chris Jericho.
Yep.
He's done a number of interviews on the paranormal. He interviews paranormal people on his podcast, and he goes on other people's podcasts as well. He'll be joining us eventually on this show. We've been talking about it, but Saturday nights are a very busy night when you're a wrestler and a rock star and a television actor and a movie actor. All the stuff that he does, he's never home on a Saturday night. And some of the others that are involved, Dean Ambrose did a whole episode of Talk is Jericho where they talked paranormal stuff. As I mentioned, Snitsky investigates. Gremlina from Glow, the original Glow, paranormal investigator, good friend of ours. Roddy Piper lived in a haunted house and did not hold back on sharing those stories. So the wrestling world, and the audience is the same. A lot of the people who watch the paranormal shows are also wrestling fans. That's why Ghost Hunters always had to have the ECW crossovers when ECW was on Sci-Fi. And that's why you see CM Punk and some of the other wrestlers going out and conducting paranormal investigations with the Ghost Hunters, because there was that crossover. And it's not just that they were on the same network, it's that there's a crossover of interest. Now, whether or not we can, ever get a wrestling match of Jason Hawes versus Zach Bagans, I don't know, but if anybody could put it together, it'd be me. I have access to a ring.
That'd be one match I'd like to watch.
I'd watch it. Especially like these days, they're both looking pretty jacked. So it'd definitely be an interesting match. I'd put my money on Jason.
I wonder if we could even do a tag team. Who would you do a tag team?
Jason and Steve versus Zach and Aaron?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that. Hey, we can make it happen. We'll throw Belanger in there as the referee.
Yeah, be perfect.
I think that would work. And me and Dave Schrader can comment, do the commentating on the side, and we can even get, I'm sure there's a Spanish paranormal broadcaster that we can be the Spanish announce team, because somebody's got to go through their table. That's the only way that it's going to work. But we can.
Yeah.
Steve says in the chat room, Grant Wilson would win that match. Yeah, he'd just come in on a run and just lay out everybody. But 508-996-0500, 877-996-1420 if you want to call in and get involved. We didn't get a chance. We mentioned a little bit last week, Moniz, but we lost another paranormal legend recently with Brad Steiger's passing.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it's led to a lot of people going back and looking up some of his stuff that might not, they were familiar with hearing him on some radio shows and podcasts, but I don't think people really gave his research and his storytelling enough due.
He's the one that got me really hooked into the paranormal. He had like 100 and something different books.
And they were all a variety of different topics.
Right.
He was like, people love to talk about the diversity of a Nick Redfern and all the different things that he copies. But I think Nick Redfern would tell you he's just Brad Steiger, in his approach. The same idea of giving all the information about a wide variety of weirdness and then trying to give you as much information as he can. And then it's up to you to kind of decide like what you want to believe and what you want to feel is connected.
Well, Brad Steiger being on our show was in the early days. That to me, still stands out in my mind.
It's amazing to me how much big name people in the paranormal world were willing to come on this show in those early days.
Yeah.
Now they'd be like, screw you. You guys are terrible. But back then they were like, oh, we don't know who you are yet, so okay.
Yeah.
But we had some great discussions, and I think we're getting back into that. As I said, that's kind of our focus this year with the show, is to try to get more deeper into the conversations, and I think that we've been doing a pretty interesting job of that. I know you weren't here last week, you were under the weather, but you got to go back and listen to last week's show, because it's some of the alternate theories, stuff that we've been talking about for years, but the fact that there are other researchers, and Brandon Masulo is not a ghost researcher in the same way that we are. He's somebody that is, he's a psychologist and a parapsychologist, but he's coming at it from a very different perspective than a lot of us are. He's just as much fascinated by, and I kind of am too, as much of the people having the experiences than the experiences themselves.
So he's more like a Lloyd Auerbach.
I think so. I think like Lloyd gets too much into the what and the how of the experience. Okay. And Brandon looks more at like a little bit of a bigger picture, but I think that if you listen to it, you'll understand it better when you hear him more than I'm giving justice to it. But that's where we have to go with this research now. Is we've spent enough time on the trees. Like now we have to zoom out and look at the forest, because we have enough pieces to start tying things together. And it used to be fascinating to me that other people had experiences. Now it's just accepted. Like now I just know that they do. So now I want to see the bigger version of it and the bigger reason behind it. And Brad Steiger was a guy that certainly looked at things from that perspective. He would look at it from what does it mean, but he wouldn't try to tell you what it meant, which I don't think that really can fly anymore with today's researchers. I think Nick Redfern is one of the few guys that gets away with it, to say, here's just what people say. You walk away from it. You think about it. You make up your own mind. When a lot of people will read a book or watch a television show and they expect to have an answer by either the final page or the last 5 minutes of the show. They want somebody to say, here exactly is what I think happened, and here's what really happened, and so now I've explained it all to you. People don't like loose ends anymore.
I think the whole point of having the loose ends is to exercise your mind. Correct?
We're not supposed to have every answer to everything.
Right.
Because if you do, you stop asking questions. If the answer can be readily provided to you, then that's not really learning. Learning isn't finding the answer. Learning is finding the path to the answer.
And the other thing is, you also should question the answers that we already have. Mm-hmm. That's a thing that, good example of this. I'll say this word and people, there's nothing to this. We already know the answer to this. Crop circles.
Right.
Okay. First thing that comes to, that was found to be a hoax. These two guys, Doug and Dave, no.
Some of them.
But yeah. And, some $20 bills are counterfeit too. Doesn't mean every $20 bill is a counterfeit. Right.
One of the things that I've thought about too is, if we did just get everything handed to us, if we just did get every answer, you lose not only the critical thinking that you learn by asking the questions, but you lose the journey of finding that answer.
Yeah.
Like I was never somebody that, when I was in school and I'm learning how to do something, I didn't really get all that excited when a teacher would explain to me what the answer was and why. I got excited when I figured out what it was, when I didn't think that I could. And that's what I think paranormal research needs to be. It needs to be people finding the answer for themselves in the way that makes sense to them, for their own growth and for their own development. There's too much of a reliance on just taking what everybody else says and using that as gospel. I don't want to make this political, but if you look at the fact that, okay, you know how much I hate the phrase fake news, because I think it's being improperly used, and I think that it's being used as a deflection technique, and it's just become commonplace, so that if you don't agree with something, or you don't want to believe something, you can just dismiss it as fake news. But I will say this. It's teaching people, the smart ones at least, the ones who are willing to say, well, not everything can be fake, so let me look into this more myself. It's teaching people to be better critical thinkers. And
okay, I would agree with that, yeah.
What's funny is, you hear people argue with, especially people from the right saying, you can't trust the mainstream media. The mainstream media lies. It's all being made up. And first of all,
that isn't completely correct. All media lies.
Well,
some of it intentionally, some of it, through error.
I don't think so. I think there's still quite a bit of journalism that's pure. The problem is they're watching CNN at 8:00 at night and seeing a talk show host talking head and assuming that is news. Right. And that's not news. They're talking to the people who are doing the reporting and giving their own opinions.
Right.
But anyway, I don't want to digress on that. But I remember being in 6th, 7th, 8th grade and studying current events, and they would make us take the newspaper and find a story that interests us and cut the story out of the newspaper and read it and write down other questions that we would ask about it and write down what we thought might be wrong about it and all that stuff and learn how to critically read what was being reported. Like, the dirty secret of most journalism these days is, everybody's saying, well, it's fake news, it's fake news. This outlet's reporting fake news, this outlet's reporting fake news, is the fact that everybody just is regurgitating what everybody else is reporting. So it's not like every newspaper is against Donald Trump, just as an example. It's that one news story might seem like it's being against Donald Trump, and it's being run in multiple newspapers. People aren't even bothering to look at seeing the byline and seeing if it's Associated Press or if it's unique to that paper. So that's part of the issue. But, my point with all of this is that same critical thinking that we were supposed to be using in reading the newspapers, and to realize that news might not be fake. It may be slanted, but it's not fake. There's still some kernel of truth to what they're telling you. They might just be putting a spin on the information that they're giving you. And it's the same thing with the paranormal.
Or selectively editing something. Yeah.
It's and especially selective editing when it comes to the paranormal, because you will get a book that somebody will write to tell you, here's the definitive truth on crop circles.
Right.
But they're leaving out cases that don't fit their argument. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't know about them. They probably do and chose not to add them to the book because it doesn't matter. It's like somebody who decides to write a book about the Fox sisters and ends it with the Fox sisters, with, I think it was Maggie saying that, we made it all up. We were perpetrators of a great hoax because we wanted the money and we made it all up. And they end the book with that and say that's proof that spiritualism and mediumship is not real. But what they're not following up on is the fact that she later recanted that and said that she made that statement under duress. So you're crafting the story to fit your opinion or to fit the agenda that you have.
Right.
When it only takes a Wikipedia search to know that there's more to the story.
I'll give you a good example of something similar that, like you're talking about politically in the media. All right. Now, I have no great love for the current administration, but I saw this on, calling immigrants animals. It was and it's selective editing. He was talking about MS-13, but you clip it here and there, and I know it's thing in the past. But what I'm saying is stuff like what you're talking about, something like that.
Not to this isn't a political statement, but part of the problem with that is the president doesn't always do a very good job of saying things in a way that they can't be turned against him.
Right.
And I think part of that is on purpose. I think part of that is he says things in a way that can be used ambiguously so that people can turn it against him, so he has something to fight against and to rail against. He's like, I'm going to give you a little fuel for the fire because that fire that you shoot at me fires me up to shoot back at you. So I think there's a little bit of that at play. My own personal opinion. Maybe he's not thinking that much ahead either, and he talks off the cuff, and he's just not good at it.
Correct. But I'm saying that's an example of what you're talking about. You take a select news media like I said, you're just talking about something political at the moment, but
yeah, I really can't by rule at the station talk about things politically. That's why I'm trying to be careful.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'll move off topic here.
But
I'm saying the principle is the same about the paranormal. If somebody wants to slant something about the paranormal one way or the other, that's the common thing that's done. The fake news version of it. Oh, we found that this particular case isn't really this because we looked into this and found that there's only this. Not mentioning that there was also this, that, and the other thing backing it up, but that doesn't help your point, so you don't make mention of that.
And I feel like in paranormal research now, there's a huge feeling, I don't even know if it's like a conscious thing that people are aware of as they're doing it, but social media has had an impact on it because there's very much, when you're on an investigation, there's very much I can't wait to post this, or I want to know what kind of reaction I'll get to this. I'm not saying with everybody, but for a lot of the stuff that you see out there, there's a lot of, like, this is going to be something that I will get a lot of attention for on social media.
Okay.
And that's not what you should be gearing your research toward. I referred to it a few weeks ago as selfie paranormal. When it comes to, like, I just want to take a picture of myself standing outside this haunted prison so that I can put it on my Facebook and everybody will be like, oh, wow, you got to go there. That's so awesome. But in actuality, you know, there's should be nothing wrong with that. Like, there should be nothing wrong with taking a photo. Like, you're there.
Documentation.
Yeah. Well, not only that, like, not even from a research perspective, but just like, you got to go to a really cool place. Take a picture and put it on your Facebook.
No different than you know, hey, look, I went to, you know.
I'm at Disney World.
Yeah.
I'm here. You know, like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what social media is for. But it starts to create that mindset of other people that are looking at what you're doing and saying, oh, he's just in it to take a picture outside that place. Or when you go to a paranormal convention and it's like, oh, he's just going there to take pictures with, you know, whatever celebrities he can take a picture with.
Yeah.
And,
well, you know, if that's what you're there for doing it, fine. And just don't, you know, try and confuse yourself with being, you know, a true researcher. You're just there for the, you know, legend trip.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I mean, there's some of the best people we know.
Yeah.
Some of our friends that we've made in doing this work, they don't have any interest in going out on a weekend with a team or, you know, helping a residential case or anything like that. They just want to go to events and they just want to go and have fun and maybe have an experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. But and this goes back into it's
like a softball league versus, you know, somebody trying to go into double or triple A type of thing. Yeah.
We've had this argument a lot over the years too of, you know, what do you owe this research if you do it? What do you owe to it? I feel like we spent a lot of time in the early days of this show saying, if you are going to call yourself a paranormal investigator, a paranormal researcher, then you have to go out and represent all of us. Like, so when you knock on somebody's door and say, hi, I'm Matt Moniz, I'm a paranormal researcher. I've known some people who've lived in this house before and have had experiences. I was wondering if you'd let me come in and conduct an investigation here. You know, we used to feel like you were speaking for all of us, because in a way you are. You're speaking in a way for everybody that does that work, and you're representing everybody that does that work. But here we are all these years later, and nobody else speaks for me. I do my own thing. And if I wanted to go and knock on somebody's door and somebody was like, oh, well, I've had a paranormal researcher that's been here before, and, you know, they just screwed around, they ate the food out of my fridge, and they stole something from me, and, you know, they were wearing my wife's underwear, whatever.
That only happened once.
And you actually thought you had permission because they said whatever you needed to do was fine. But, you know, if somebody says that to me, I no longer just sit there and say, oh, well, you know, one person ruined it for the rest of us. No, I stand up for myself and I say, well, that wasn't me. That's not who I am. And, you know, here's a list of references of people that you can talk to that will tell you that I'm not like that. And so I think as we get away from feeling like not everybody represents all of us, maybe we can get away from the idea that not everybody speaks for all of us either.
Right.
And then we can have some more individualized thinking and some more individualized theories. Still coughing.
Yeah.
Still have the allergies.
I'm glad that whatever it was I had, my face was leaking like Niagara Falls last week.
Niagara Falls.
Yeah. It was not fun.
We should just keep that on a drop, ready to fire off anytime anybody mentions it. It might only come up like 2 or 3 times in a decade, but it would be worth it to have it and to have it ready.
Like Susquehanna Hat Company?
There's a lot. Like, we used to have a lot of Stooges drops when we originally created all the drops that we were going to do on the show, and then we decided not to, which was probably better because all these shows would get flagged now for using, and everybody's in the chat room, slowly I turn. So they knew where that was going. But I also feel, too, that we need to have more just open discussions about things as opposed to everybody just taking offense so easily to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I've been wrapped up in some paranormal drama over the last couple of weeks.
Oh, well, yeah.
This is paranormal media drama, we'll call it.
Okay.
And it's, in the end, like, I'm like, we're spending a lot of time thinking about something that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter.
No, not really.
Like, for 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours a night, somebody might be doing a radio show that people don't agree with. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. That we're gonna get flagged now because I just quoted Linkin Park lyrics.
Yeah.
So this will get pulled from YouTube. I didn't sing it though. I did sing this week though. I'll play that for you guys later because it's not something that it's not for public consumption.
You sang on.
I made a parody song.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But I'll play it for you later.
Paranormal themed or?
It's tied into all this drama. That's why I don't want to promote it on the show.
Okay. Well, we're streaming.
It's not really nice for another host to call out another host.
All right.
So,
Okay.
but it had over 370 views.
Nice.
I know. That's like the most successful song I've ever done. Like, because usually when I have parody songs, it's just stuff that I would.
You should just release it under the pen name DJ Shack Hack. How about that?
I like that.
Yeah.
We may have to go with that. But you worked with me for years where I would just make up my own lyrics to the songs that were on the radio. But they were just very, like, they were hyper localized to where we were working. And only about the customer. Oh, by the way, Charlie died.
Charlie
Akins.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was sick. So he was, for any of you who have listened to some of our previous episodes about the Fearing Tavern, which we're actually going back to in July. You can find out on Spooky South Coast website. But he was one of the last people that lived in the Fearing Tavern before it was turned from being a residence back into the way that it looked in 1690. So whenever I would always say, like, I talked to somebody who lived in the house and he told me, nothing ever happened there, and this was this and this, and that's who it was. So he passed away after a long illness this week. But yeah, so I'll play the song for you guys later. Anybody that's listening to the show, you can't go out there and find it. The Bell Gab people know where it is, but the rest of you can't find it. It's a private video.
Okay.
I don't know what I was thinking, because after I was done, I was like, I just sang, and I'm not a good singer.
No argument there.
And I did it the wrong way. I sang the vocals, and then I went out and found an instrumental backing track. So, like, it's all, the timing's all off. And
That's
all
probably
that.
what makes it worth it.
Well, speaking of worth it, I got to tell you about something that's definitely worth it if you like nice, soft, comfortable t-shirts. And I know everybody in the chat room is getting excited. I'm not talking about these, but we will get a comeback of these Spooky South Coast shirts.
Excellent.
People keep asking. So we're probably going to do a thing where people can order them, and then it'll be like 6 to 8 weeks for delivery, because once the orders come in, then I will order them from Vince. We're not sitting on a bunch of them that we can't afford to buy. And then we'll take that money that people spend on the t-shirts and we'll use it to buy more t-shirts, and we'll try to keep them all in stock so we don't have the same problem that we had 10 years ago when we bought these. They held up well.
Yeah, they actually have.
But what also holds up well are the shirts from Parabox Monthly. They're silk screened onto soft style t-shirts, super comfortable, and you'll be so engrossed by the t-shirt that you'll forget that there's actually a puzzle built into it. So they can be in the form of codes, ciphers, riddles, numbers, images, or other hidden gems. So you can have fun exploring the design and putting the pieces together to figure out where to go next. You can choose from a month-to-month plan, a 3-month plan, or a 6-month plan. No contracts. You can cancel anytime. You've got nothing to lose by giving it a try. They have paranormal themes like ghosts and haunted locations, UFO encounters and aliens, folklore and legends, cryptozoology, and urban legends. So you can pick from any one of those paranormal themes. You can go and pick whatever plan that you want to follow. Just go to paraboxmonthly.com. And if you want to save a little dough, you can use the promo code SPOOKYLIVE and get 10% off. So paraboxmonthly.com, use the promo code SPOOKYLIVE and get 10% off.
Also, you can follow them on Instagram. They put up some funny stuff every once in a while, some weird stuff. That's where I got that the Laurel thing.
Oh, that was really good.
With the Ghost Asylum. I don't know if they made it or not, but they shared it, and then I stole it from them. I gave them credit, of course, but that was a great clip that
it really was. If you haven't seen it, if you go to the Spooky South Coast Instagram account, which is just spooky_South Coast, right? Yep. So if you go to that on Instagram and you'll see the clip there, it's from Ghost Stalkers, and it's
okay,
ties into the whole Laurel Yanny thing.
Speaking of which, I was doing a little research on that. It's an interesting phenomenon. For me, I'm able to hear Yanni when played through a television or radio, but if I go listen to it through my phone speakers or through a set of headphones, I can hear Laurel.
Well, they're not the same. They're not the same frequency.
No,
from the different speakers or headphones that you use. Right. So that's where it lies, is in the frequencies. From what I understand,
the filtering of it. Yeah.
I guess both are right. They're both in there, but it's just whichever one you can hear is dependent on your hearing and dependent on the frequency at which it's being broadcast.
Right.
So, and then. I can't think of the word, but what's the word when they make a word and they design it, a certain way?
Oh yeah, I saw the visual. Yeah, Laurel. Yeah,
done it with,
yeah, I can't remember the name of it either, but I know what you mean.
It's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, I'm sure somebody in the chat room will know what it is. But yeah, they've even made it visual, a visual phenomenon as well. But it's really interesting. Like, as we were playing it here, like, people are getting into fights about it. It's like, they're both right. You don't have to fight. It's which one do you hear? It's not like, I don't know how you people can hear Yanni. It's definitely Laurel. But, of course, Laurel is the right answer. But still, like, that's... Mac got it. But that's the rub that we go through when we're going through audio. And we think that we hear a certain thing and we play it for somebody else and they hear something totally different and we can never understand why. Like, how can you not hear they're saying I'm dead? No, it sounds to me like they're saying I'm looking for a pizza. I don't know, I just try to make that up, and that's what we go through all the time. So I was like, well, maybe the common person that doesn't do paranormal research kind of understands what we go through a little bit, but maybe now people who do paranormal research and focus on EVPs will understand that, oh, this is why people hear something different.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting I was waiting for the chat room to start firing up with who thought it was Laurel and who thought it was Yanni, but Barry actually played it on the radio here the other day and was taking phone calls from people, and only like 2 or 3 people called in and chimed in on it. And I thought he was going to have the phone lines lit up for like an hour with people just saying, I don't know how you people can hear that. And I'm not that every caller sounds like that, but
like what, a chain smoker that's been
some of them do.
Yeah.
Oh, they talked about it on the air, or
they did. Yeah, I was playing it from the newsroom for Barry over the air, and like it was so clearly Laurel from the way that we were playing it, but people were calling in and saying like, oh, it sounds like Yanni to me.
Like I said, it all depends upon what you're listening to it from.
Well, I think when it goes over the AM airwaves, it's the frequency kind of changes, and I can see it.
We've got so many filters and processors.
Well, on certain AM radios, I'm sure like there's more more of the higher frequencies than lows.
I will tell you that I played it because the day that it broke, the day that I found out about it was Tuesday. And on Tuesday nights on the WBSM YouTube channel, we have a show called Positive Pets with my friend Melissa hosting it. And so she was hosting, and she had her friend coming in, Lisa, to be the guest on the show. And I sit over there in Matt's corner, and I direct the video. So when they came in, I said, "Hey, have you guys heard about this whole Laurel Yanny thing?" And I was playing it for them. And so I pointed it at Melissa, sitting here in this chair, and I heard Laurel. But then when I pointed the speaker over to Lisa and played it for her, I heard Yanny.
Yeah.
So same speaker, but it just had to do with the angle of where I was hearing it. So it's all very interesting, and I think that people are starting to have an appreciation more for what we go through when we. And I tried to explain to Barry that when we do EVP work, it's very important not to tell people the first time like what they're supposed to hear, because then they will hear it. You know, by putting the power of suggestion in there, that's what they're listening for. So I said, it's if you want to really set it up for people, you don't want to say to them, "Hey, are you hearing Laurel or Yanny?" You just want to play it for them and see what they say.
Did you check out the other one that I posted, where if you think the word before it plays, I'm sure that influences it. Yeah. I'll play it for you later. You can check it out.
And it just goes to show, like, it reiterates what I always say, like, you should never tell somebody what an EVP is.
Well, I did a little experiment with my roommate, Joe. I was looking at this thing, it's like, okay, I'm thinking this word. Then I thought this word, and it repeats the same word I'm thinking each time.
So I read an article about that too. I think it's called like something like the Durkin phenomenon or something
like that. Yeah. No, what was interesting is I told my roommate Joe, "Hey, I'm going to play this for you. You tell me what you hear." And I played it for him. He said something completely different from the two words. It's like, so he had no preconceived notion ahead of time. So it's like, okay, now read this and then play it. It's like, he started one word and then the other's like, wow, that's creepy.
And you said that's called the Durkin phenomenon?
I could be wrong.
Something like that, yeah.
Like that.
As opposed to the Durkee phenomenon.
What's the Durkee?
Those fantastic potato sticks that you just can't find anymore.
Right.
But those were phenomenal.
They were phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. The blue and white can, and yeah.
My mom called them pixie sticks.
Yeah.
But they were Durkee potato sticks. And I haven't seen them in forever.
Yeah, those one of my mother's favorites, yeah.
Where'd they go? I want some right now. I want some pixie sticks. Some Durkin potato sticks.
Right.
I used to tell her, like, "Mom, the pixie sticks are the candy ones, like with the powder inside of it. Like, these are potato sticks," but she still would call them that.
It had like that weird like foil like pull off thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call her tomorrow or I'll text her tomorrow because she will know where to find them. She'll be like, "Oh, you have to like drive 1,800 miles to this store in, Bayonne, New Jersey or something, and like knock on the door at 3:30 in the afternoon, and they'll pull them out of the back room," because she loved them. So and I remember, like, you go to the store, you get like the little container that was kind of like should have been enough for a couple of people to share, but you'd end up eating the whole container yourself anyway. But then sometimes you would get the big ass container. And that big ass container, like the sticks were longer in the bigger container. So you got to like really, oh man.
Here we go. Paranormal and snacks again.
Right. And a lot of people confuse those with the handicap fries, and they're not the same either.
No, definitely not. No. Not the same thing at all. Handicap pub fries?
Yeah, even though those are delicious too.
They are good,
especially
but
the hot ones.
Those are thicker, and they just have a different consistency. Mm-hmm. Like the potato sticks are so thin and like just snap off.
Yeah, and you just shove a bunch in your mouth and chomp away.
Now, did you break them up into smaller pieces?
No, I just shoved them all in my mouth.
Yeah, that's what I did too. I used to love on the longer ones to like just put a bunch in my mouth and then like not use my hands, but just like bite them and like, you know what I mean? Like take them into my, this is getting weird, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I also just did one of my, maybe we'll do this sometime on a Facebook Live video or on an Instagram or something. But just last week I did my Teeny Juice performance.
What's this?
I hadn't done my Teeny Juice performance in years. I almost didn't do it. You remember this? where I would take, the teeny
I think
juices.
I remember.
Little teeny juices.
Right.
I would take one of those and rip open the top.
Yep. You gotta get all the foil off because you'll definitely cut your mouth.
Yeah, you have to take all the foil off. I'd put my mouth over it, and then hold my hands out, tilt my head back, and just gulp the whole thing down in one shot.
Okay.
Without using my hands. And like people would always ask me like at every party that we had them at to do it, and I hadn't done it in a long time, and I did it on I think on Mother's Day, and I survived. So maybe I'll have to do it on a video. It's not that big of an accomplishment, but it's still like people still say, "Hey, do that trick." I don't even know how I started doing it, and I don't know why I even drink those things, because while we're going down the snack route here, there's a difference between like we all know there's juice that's like not real juice, juice flavored water compound sugar mix stuff. But this goes beyond that. The stuff that's in those teeny juices is the same garbage that's in flavor ice. Like it's the exact same thing.
It's just not frozen.
Right. And it's still terrible no matter what. So I still drink them, and I still eat flavor ice. I used to have a chest freezer in my basement. The only thing I had in the chest freezer was flavor ice. And I would go down, and I'd never go down and get one. I'd go down and get like 7 or 8.
Just flavor ice, no hoodsie cups, no
hoodsie cups, no.
Nothing?
No.
Wow.
For a while, we had a turkey in there. And then the turkey went bad because the fuse blew. But we don't have the chest freezer anymore because we were just wasting money on it. Because it was just for my flavor ice.
That was great about those, because if they thawed out, you just freeze them again.
What? Yeah, flavor ice, absolutely. Yeah. And the funny thing is like sometimes I would open them up and just drink them before they were frozen. And everybody's like, "How can you drink those? They're not even frozen." I'm like, "It's the same as a teeny juice."
Oh, you're talking about the hugs?
Yes, hugs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing.
Okay.
Same thing.
Are those the same? Is that the same quote unquote juice as in those bottles that are they're like wax bottles that you chew?
Yeah, I don't know.
Where you get like a half.
Wow,
a tablespoon?
you're going back a ways.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
We had a candy shop like at the end of my street, so I was for a little while at least.
I used to like the
Sorry.
I used to like the
Hansel and Gretel's.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I miss Hansel and Gretel's.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about the...
I know you're thinking about the story of why they closed.
I just
I know you are.
I just went somewhere with that.
That's for another podcast.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's a whole different story.
No, I thought you were talking about the other one on Route 6. Country Market.
Yeah. That place was always good too.
Yeah.
Those were there was a slow death of
the old company store too.
Penny candy places.
Yeah, the old company store.
Right, but then company store they got
kitschy.
They got full of like I don't know, like
more gift stuff than
like gifty stuff, and then their penny candy.
They had all the hot sauce and
they went to nickel candy, and they went to quarter candy.
Inflation.
It's crazy.
If anybody out there is,
I blame Obama.
If anybody out there is listening and is wealthy and wants to purchase a candy store, Billy Boy Candies is for sale.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So you could have access to all the penny candy you could eat until you throw up.
Well, we're in Fairhaven. We got Dorothy Cox right down the street.
Well, Dorothy Cox is in Wareham now too. They make all the chocolate in Wareham.
Really?
In the industrial park, yeah. But
my old science teacher works there.
Which one?
Miss Dennis.
No.
I don't know if you remember her.
I remember her. I didn't know that she worked there. So there's the wax bottle candy, because I'm not going to let this go now, because now that we've gone down the snack path.
Snack aisle.
So because, I've always been a big soda fan growing up, I wouldn't buy the juice ones. I bought the soda ones.
Oh, yeah.
The soda wax bottle ones.
I remember those.
Those were good, too.
Weren't they like they were like supposed to be name brand? They said it was like 7-Up, but it was like something, I don't know.
Like 7-Up?
Yeah.
Or like 6 Up?
Right.
I don't know. I just
Dr. Cherry.
I just remember it being like cola. Like it just said cola on it. Just real quick, because I don't want to spend the whole rest of the show talking about candy, but you can if you want. Call in 508-996-0500. Real quick, give me 3 candy 3 candies that you won't eat.
Oh, God. Probably the first one would be Mary Jane's. I'm not really big on those.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, they're a little... You have one, and that's enough for a decade.
I'm going to put Bit of Honey in the same category as Mary Jane's because they're the same candy.
Yeah, basically, yeah. The other one I'm not really fond of is any type of saltwater taffy. And probably the last would be Almond Joy, mainly because I'm not really
Not a coconut fan?
No,
Me either, really. But I do like a Mounds every now and then. I don't mind those, but I don't really like coconut.
Mm.
Weird. How about you, Matt?
Number one, I'm fully prepared for this. I could go on forever. Actually.
I think we're gonna. I think we're gonna have
bitch about candy all day.
I think we're gonna have a similar answer, you and I.
Marshmallow Peeps is my number one.
Okay,
I wouldn't
I'm okay with
consider that
Peeps.
a candy, but okay.
No, it's fine.
Necco wafers are number 2.
Oh yeah, I didn't even put them on my list.
And I think 3 is tied with Smarties and Boston baked beans.
I don't love either one, but I don't turn them away. So you want to know my 3? See, this is the one that I thought we would have had similar. Fortune gum.
Even though it's gross, I do like the Fortune, and I like the novelty behind it.
So you'll eat it even though it's terrible?
I like the novelty wins me over.
So I don't like Fortune gum. The Mary Jane / bit of honey will be in my list as well. Necco wafers I would have put in there, but they get beat out by button candy.
Oh God, with the paper.
That's true. That is the worst because I don't see the point.
Button candy is the worst thing that was ever invented.
Like, I don't know. They don't taste like anything.
You can't.
They taste like paper.
You can't pull it off the paper.
No.
So you have to bite it off the paper, and you will inevitably eat the paper. And there's not enough flavor in that little tiny button of the button candy to overpower the taste of paper. It's like that was a candy that was created to give to kids so they would stop asking for candy.
Also, Gabaroo said black licorice.
Oh, no, the worst.
Yep.
I don't mind it.
No, I hate black licorice.
Blackjack bubblegum. Blackjack gum.
Yeah, same
have you ever
thing.
had that? Yeah.
But we have some blackjack gum over there. Well, we did until we cleaned it all up.
Yep.
But the other thing, though, the weird thing about like licorice in general, don't like licorice, don't like anisette, don't mind Jägermeister.
Raisinets.
Yeah, Jaeger.
Raisinets, Matthew Arrow.
I love Raisinets.
They're so, like...
Nature's candy.
Chocolate-covered raisins? Phenomenal.
They're deceiving. You think they're going to be, like...
A junior
chocolate.
mint.
No.
Or, like, would have a delicious peanut inside, but then you're like, fruit.
No, deceiving are donuts that look like Boston cream but have lemon in them.
How about malted milk balls?
Those aren't bad.
Those are on my list too.
I don't love them, but I prefer what's the ones that have the caramel inside?
Goobers? No.
Sugar
those
babies?
Yeah, sugar babies.
Sugar babies are good.
Sugar daddies or whatever.
We have a caller on the line. I'm pretty sure he's calling to call about snacks. Good evening. You were on Spooky South Coast.
Hey, Tim. It's Mark Colacusis. How you doing?
Hello. I saw you pop up on the caller ID, so I was like, he's definitely either calling about snacks or he's trying to rein us in from talking about snacks.
No.
One of the two.
About snacks, of course.
Okay.
The Penny Candy Store, and that's the name of it, in Sharon on Route 1 has all that old candy.
And is it a penny?
And rooms of candy.
Wow.
Can I get it for a penny?
No, you can't get it for a penny. But it's pretty close. It's actually pretty cheap.
Because I remember
literally rooms and rooms of candy in the store.
You are familiar with Randolph, so did you ever go to Minahan's Handy Store in Randolph?
No.
That's where I used to get all my penny. It's not there anymore. I think they tore it down and built a house in its place, but that's where I used to get all my penny candy, walking down from my grandmother's house. And I remember going there with my grandfather one time, and he flipped out because it was no longer a penny for a bullseye. It was 5 cents.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah. That's what he said. He said, I used to get 5 for a nickel. Now I'm only getting 1.
See, when I was a kid, I grew up in Avon, on one side of Avon, and we went to Pappy's, and then we made the big move the other side of the traffic light in Avon, and then we went down to Fisher's Market, and I got $1 one time. I got 100 Tootsie Rolls. I was like,
That's pretty awesome. Pappy's was
Yeah,
a
it was a
Pappy's
good
was a
day.
liquor store, right? Didn't they sell liquor at Pappy's?
Not at first. Not when I was a kid.
Okay. I remember. No, you know what I'm thinking of? Big Jim's.
Oh yeah, sure. That was my first job.
Yep. I used to get candy in.
Yeah, sure.
I used to get candy in there. That was the first place I ever got combos,
Oh yeah,
like in the '80s. So
yeah. Then they had videos and everything. It was a pretty good stuff. He was going to get pizza ovens, and then he went out of business.
well, you can't. How can you be in pizza business anyway, being that close to Linwood?
Oh no, it's far enough. And you would have liquor store and videos and pizza all in one spot. Are you kidding me?
You're like
Perfect
in,
night.
but you're in the triangle there. You've got Town Spa, you've got Zach's, you've got Linwood. You're screwed.
Yeah, there's a lot of good pizza down there.
We got into a fight with this on Facebook with somebody who's like, there is no good pizza anywhere in New England. Like, nope,
Whoa.
there's the pizza triangle.
I disagree. Oh my God.
If you got the Zach's, if you want the big Greek style slices, you got the Linwood if you want the barroom style.
And you got Cape Cod Cafe on the other side with the huge pepperoni slices.
Yeah, and Town Spa is kind of that barroom style too, isn't it? I haven't been there in a long
Town
time.
Spa is neck to neck with Linwood, and then in Easton there's a place, Buddy's Union Villa. Doesn't get much play, but it's right between Linwood and Town Spa.
What about Emma's?
Which one?
Emma's.
In Bridgewater?
Emma's is okay. I think it's overrated. I like the commercials.
I agree. Emma's is like a college kids thing.
Yeah.
Like if they weren't near the
Exactly.
college,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
a
think
good call.
they'd get as much. But take it from me, people. If you're not from this area and you're coming to this area, or if you are from this area and you've just never had it, go to Linwood. It's not. I don't even think it's on the menu anymore. But if you ask for it, they'll make it. The Bean Special.
Oh no, that's on it.
Okay.
That's
last
the
time
number one.
is it okay? Because the last time I went in there, I didn't see it on the
Only
board.
cash still to this day.
Only cash.
Yeah.
Do they
Can't
still-
credit cards there?
Do they still serve the draft
Go
beers in
for it.
those little tiny glass jars? Tiny glasses?
Yes.
Ridiculous. And you also, if I remember correctly, you can't play the games on Sunday.
Yeah, I haven't been there on a Sunday in a while. I did. They keep changing the pinball machine game.
They had a pinball machine. They had that
But they always
bowling,
have that bowling game.
you know, the bowling game where you like they have to
yeah,
sawdust the board and
Yep.
like, and it's basically like shuffleboard, but it's bowling.
Yep.
They
Yep.
it would always be turned off on Sundays, and I finally found out years later why.
Some sort of blue law.
It was their entertainment license didn't cover Sundays. It would have been more money to have an entertainment license for Sundays, so they only had it for Monday through Saturday or Monday through Friday.
Yeah, I just picked up a part-time job at night at a local police department, we'll say. And when I'm right down the street from it, I have to go there after doing OJT and grab a pizza. It's the law. You have to.
Mark, one of these nights we're going to make you bring us a bean special.
Done.
All right.
All right, I'll talk to you.
All right. Take care. That's we have this recorded.
Yes.
This is forever and ever now. He can't
No.
go back on his word.
Going to pizza. What about Mark Anthony's?
Well, of course. Mark Anthony's is excellent.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Mark Anthony's.
It's actually known a lot further than just local.
Oh yeah. No, you talk to people about like this area, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, is that near Mark Anthony's Pizza?"
Yeah.
They're like, "I don't know anything about that area except Mark Anthony's Pizza."
Yeah. You try and talk about onset. Oh, that's where Mark Anthony's is. You
Right.
know that?
I literally gave a discussion about spiritualism and about spiritualist camps.
Mm-hmm.
In where was I? It was when I was in Salem, and because it was either Salem or Rhode Island. I can't remember, but it was. I gave that lecture in both places last year, and when I said, Onset was one of the biggest spiritualist camps, and somebody also said, yeah, Mark Anthony's Pizza. I was like, well, see, there you go. Matt's getting uncomfortable over here as we're talking about pizza.
All right. I was just thinking about Pizza Pizzazz.
Pizza Pizzazz. Yes, that's the Bart L pizza. It gives it more punch. So anyway, there is the question from Gabaroo. He wants to know where the best slice of pizza in Massachusetts is. If you want that big greasy heart attack pizza, you go to Zach's. The oil pools up in the middle of it, and the slice is the size of my head. I don't know if it's like since the kids took it over or whoever runs it now. I don't know if it's still the same, but oh my! Do you remember, Matt? You went with me.
What's up?
Didn't you go with me when I went to Randolph to pick up when I got my grandmother's car?
Oh yeah, we went to Zach.
And we went to Zach's. That was the last time I had Zach's. Can you believe that?
Wow.
That's a
It's
long
still
time
there,
ago.
right?
I think so. But just huge pizzas and just that big pool of grease in the middle. Like you can literally, like when you're done eating your pizza, like you can
Dunk the
crust into the middle of
Yeah.
the pizza and get that grease, that good stuff.
Reminds me of a pizza place right down the road from where I lived that I grew up. Good old Pete's.
Yeah, that's you're making Matt uncomfortable now.
Greasy Pete's.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the food portion of the show. I'm sorry, I'm just reading this comment too. You do see its greasy shadow underneath it.
Yeah.
It's to the point where if you bring home the pizza in a box, like in a Zach's box, and you put it on you have to put paper towels under the box.
Yep. Because
it'll go right through the box. But one of these
side of the box says Exxon Valdez.
pretty much. It's every time that you order a Zach's pizza, OPEC raises the prices. So you have to see it to experience it. Maybe we'll get some night on a Saturday before we do the show. I think that would be a good sidetrack. Is we can go and get some Zach's, some Linwood, because they're close to each other in Randolph. Make the drive back here. Maybe grab some Mark Anthony's too. Just lay it all out and just show it to the people on the camera.
And then eat it.
Oh, absolutely. That goes without saying. So I feel like we dropped the ball a little bit here in talking about the paranormal stuff, but we talked about the important things that matter, that being the pizza and the candy and the snacks. And I don't know. I think this is just as much a part of exactly what we're talking about. When we talk about people's ghost experiences, when we talk about their paranormal experiences with going out there and looking for you, it's all part of a societal thing.
Well, think about this.
We bond over the stories. We bond over the food. It's all part of the...
You go to these places, you go for the experience, and then what are you looking for? Comfort. And you find the comfort foods. You're looking for the comfort of sharing the experiences with other people. And usually what do people do when they commiserate with each other? It's over food.
You know what another good pizza is? Mamma Mia's. And we will be having Mamma Mia's again when we go to Edaville, because we're making our return there. Just announced this week. October 20th. Is it the 20th? Yes, October 20th. We will be an eerie night at Edaville, and I already talked to them, already worked out everything. We will be riding the train again, and we'll be taking it around the park, and then after that, we'll be investigating the park for the rest of the night. So if you want to join us, last time that we did this event, it pretty much sold out.
Yeah.
We actually had to oversell it because so many people wanted to go. So I wouldn't wait too long to get the tickets to this one, because it's been a couple years since we've been there. We're running out of time to be able to investigate the suicide house, because they will be tearing it down eventually. Each year over the last couple of years, I've been told it'll be torn down by the end of the season. So they're not messing around. If you want to get into a house where 3 different people have committed suicide over the years, I talked to somebody just this past week who lived in that house for a brief period and said, it's weird. This person had way more experiences in the museum building, which we will also investigate, but there's enough stories coming out of that place all over the park. Dino Land, the Midway.
Yep. The Midway is interesting.
The woods.
Like we're talking over crossover stuff. We're there doing a ghost event, and what do Andy and I and several other people see? This UFO type of event happen. Was weird.
We need to spend more time in the woods over there. I think maybe this time we'll try and go a little bit further down the train tracks, and see if we can get people out there more toward the junction.
Yeah,
Cranberry Junction. Get some more people out toward that way, and see if we. There's so many stories in the woods around there from Native American lore, and people have seen St. Elmo's fire out there and all kinds. Let's really do it up well, because as that park continues to grow, you'll have less and less chances to get at some of these places that are very intimate right now. So anyway, you can get the tickets at SpookySouthCoast.com. I highly recommend it. I'm looking forward. It's like one of my favorite places in the world anyway, not even from a paranormal perspective. And I'm going to try to work it out with them because they're open the day of the event. It's part of their Halloween celebration time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk to them and say, hey, listen, why don't we work out a deal? I got to wait and see how many people buy tickets because the rate that we can get depends on the number of people that are going. But let's see if we can get a discounted rate for people to be able to go and spend the day in the park and ride the rides and go through the museum and experience everything that Edaville's all about. And then they can just stay and investigate all night. So, and I'll get a room deal too, because I've recently found out that I know somebody that runs a hotel in the area.
Okay.
Which should help us with some of these things that we have coming up. But anyway, you can find out about all that at SpookySouthCoast.com, and you can also find every episode of the show, all of our videos, all of our audio podcasts. You can find the clips, blogs, all kinds of things. Go to SpookySouthCoast.com. Follow us across social media. We're on Twitter at SpookySC, on Instagram, Spooky_Southcoast, and pretty much anywhere that you can have a presence, you'll find us there. Matt, are we on Pinterest? No, we don't do Pinterest. I have no idea how to do Pinterest.
I believe we have an account, but no one maintains it.
We'll have to fix that.
Mm-hmm.
Buffer is the
Is
future.
that a thing?
What, Pinterest?
Yeah, do people still use it?
I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
Do we still have...
Well, if you do,
we
if
still
anyone out there does use Pinterest and want us to bring up our Pinterest game,
Yes, just
give
let
us a
us
shout out.
let us know. All right, well, that does it for this week's show. Until next week, for Matt, for Stephanie, I'm Tim. We want you all to stay spooktacular.